Hey guys, and welcome back to Sports Design School, where we teach you everything you need to know to create high-quality sports designs in Adobe Photoshop. Now, I have a little bit of a different video for you guys today, but before we dive into that, I just want to say thank you for watching this video. If you're new to our channel, welcome. And if you're one of our recent subscribers, thank you so much for subscribing. We really appreciate it. You're going to get lots of awesome value out of this channel. But this video is kind of based off a conversation I had with somebody on our Instagram a few days ago. And if you aren't followed to our Instagram already, make sure you go down to the link in the description and follow us on Instagram. If you have any questions or any tips that you need, just shoot us a message over there and we'd be happy to respond. But we were having this conversation with one of our followers on Instagram, and they were saying man, I really love sports design. I really love diving into Photoshop. I just wish there was a way that I could make a career out of this one day. And he wasn't applying for jobs or anything. He was still in high school, but he was saying, man, I wish it was possible to do this forever. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about getting a career in sports design, and even if it's possible to get a career in sports design and what that looks like. I'm actually going to share a little bit about my journey with sports design and kind of the process I went through to get to where I am. And I'll talk about a little bit of where I am today and how you guys can get there too. But essentially, sports design is an awesome career field. It's something that is so fun and so dynamic, and it's so much better than working in an office filing papers or doing stuff like that, or working at Chick-fil-A. Sports design is something that's so cool, but the journey to get into that position can seem kind of confusing at times. But let me just start off by sharing my journey with you guys. So around the time I was in maybe late 7th or 8th grade, I was like, man, I really love some of these designs I'm seeing. It was around the time Photoshop was really getting big for college sports. And I was like, man, this is really cool. I wish I could recreate some of this. And I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have an iPad. All I had was my iPhone 5S at the time. And I was like, well, I want to see how I can create my own awesome content, just like these guys. And so what I ended up doing is downloading a few apps, and I created an Instagram account, a Tennessee fan Instagram account. Like a lot of you do today. I see it all the time on our Instagram feed. And so I started off by just creating random designs on my phone and then posting them to this Instagram account. And if you really want to see a shock for a second, here's my first design I ever created on my iPhone 5S. It was this work of art right here. And I know if you look at it today, it looks awful, but I remember sitting there thinking, man, this is so awesome. I'm so proud of this. Because I had gone from having this idea of wanting to create something and then finally being able to create it. And so I was doing this all on my phone, and I was like, this is really cool. And I kept on doing it over and over again on that one Tennessee fan account that I was running. And eventually I got some success, and I developed a lot of followers and stuff like that. And I got to a point where I had a pretty good following. I had maybe 8,000 or 9,000 followers at the time. And I was feeling really good about that. But I looked back and all of my designs weren't really that great. And it's not because I wasn't a good designer. I like to think I'm a decent designer. But the thing is, when you're working on an iPhone 5S or just your phone, it's really hard to create awesome looking designs. Now I see tons of you guys that send us messages saying, oh, I just did this on my phone. And you guys have gotten a lot better. The technology must have been a lot better, because I remember doing this all on my phone, having to use the eraser to cut out all the T on by hand. So difficult. So I finally got to a point where I was like, man, this sports design thing is really cool. I really am interested in seeing where this can go. So I got to a point where I think for Christmas one year, I asked my parents, I was maybe early high school, 9th grade. I asked my parents for an Adobe Photoshop subscription from my Christmas present. And if you don't know, you can get a Photoshop subscription for $10 a month or something like that. So it's not expensive. It's 100% worth it. I definitely recommend it. If you're a student, they have a student discount for that. But so I was like, hey, I really want to get into this. Would you mind helping me get Photoshop? And they're like, sure. So I remember I got Photoshop And I pumped out this bad boy. This was my first Photoshop design I ever created. I didn't know anything about brushes. I didn't know anything about how to install fonts. I didn't know any of that. And so I get messages from you guys saying, hey, I'm brand new to Photoshop. Like, this is what I came up with. What are your thoughts on it? It looks so much better than what I created, because really I had no idea what I was doing. And that's actually part of the reason why I created this channel, is because I remember where I was back when I was a 9th grader, and I was wondering, like, how do I get better at this? And I wanted to watch a bunch of like tutorials on how to create like awesome sports designs, because I really loved sports graphic design. And I remember looking and not being able to find anything specifically for sports design. They had like random like photo manipulation things, and there were some sports design things, but they're all like the hyperlapses or whatever, where they go super fast and you can't see any of the steps. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. I remember just being so frustrated trying to figure this out on my own, but this is ultimately what I came up with. And so eventually I kept at it for a little bit, and I just kept on trying new things in Adobe Photoshop and trying to figure what is even going on. And I got better at it, and I started creating better looking designs, and I finally kind of got my feet planted. I figured out how to install fonts and use brushes and do cutouts the right way and all of that great stuff. And so eventually I got to a point where I said, hey, I think I'm pretty good. Let me see what I can do for this. So I created a Twitter account for my high school football team. Like I said, I was in high school at that point. And I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell any of the coaches or anything. I was just creating like wallpapers and designs, edits for all of the people on our high school team. And it was completely anonymous. Nobody knew it was me. And I just started posting stuff. And it wasn't anything I was doing like for money or anything. I just said, hey, like, let me see what I can do for real world stuff. And so I created a decent amount of stuff for them. And I remember creating this design right here. And I felt like so cool. I was like, this is like the Oregon Ducks version of my high school. And I remember like posting on Twitter, and I got like 30 retweets or something. And I was like, man, I'm blowing up. This is huge. I'm going to be huge one day. And so I remember I posted this, and it got like a decent amount of retweets for like my high school. And I was like, okay, like, that's awesome. And so I was sitting in class one day, and then I don't know how, but my high school football coach like knocked on the class door and was like, hey, I'd like to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And he said, hey, I found out that you've been doing this stuff behind the scenes. And I had no idea how he had figured out it was me. But he said, I'd love to like work with you on some of this stuff and potentially pay you. And I was like, well, okay, that sounds awesome. I mean, at that time I was a high schooler, and all my friends were working at like Chick-fil-A or something, just like making fries. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that. And he's like, hey, we'll pay you to make cool designs. And I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like I remember sitting there thinking like, dang, if I could actually do this, like that'd be awesome. And so I started working with them and creating designs for them. And I ended up like coming up with some really cool stuff. And I did that all throughout high school up into the point where I was like right when I graduated. And so I graduated, and I was like, okay, that was like a cool thing. And the whole time throughout high school, I had people reaching out to me like, hey, can you help me out with this? I'll pay you like $20 or whatever. And I was like, sure. But I didn't actually understand how feasible a career in sports design specifically was. And so I did all of that. And then I got to college, and I got to a pretty big college, and I was like, man, that was awesome. I wish there was a way to replicate that at college. And weirdly enough, the college I attend, like literally the September, I enrolled in school in August, the September of my freshman year in college, they put out a thing on like one of the athletic accounts and said, hey, we're looking for student design interns. And I was like, wait, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want to do. And it was an opportunity to work with like a huge organization and work with awesome, great people like in like the football headquarters facility and all of that. And I was like, sure, let me try that. So I applied. And because I had so much experience with doing this stuff throughout high school and like just so many years of experience working in Photoshop and stuff like that. They're like, yeah, sure, you're perfect. You're exactly the person we're looking for. And so I say that part to say, if you're looking at diving into Photoshop right now, and maybe you're a middle schooler or high schooler or even in college, and you just want to know how to get better at sports design and you aren't in Photoshop yet, I highly recommend checking out Photoshop, because you'll never know what opportunity it will open. But so I started as an intern at this university and was doing lots of great work, and it was super exciting, and I was getting lots of new challenges. And I couldn't help but thinking, man, this is the dream job. And so I've been doing that for a few years now, and eventually I got to the point where I got a full-time design position with them. And that's kind of my journey of going through sports design. And I'm not necessarily a great designer. I know so many people I see on Instagram are better than I am. But the fact of the matter is, it's possible to become a sports designer for a profession. Like you guys, some of you guys, for sure, when I scroll through, I see this person definitely could get paid to do this professionally one day. And so all it takes is just diving in and creating lots of awesome content. Like I would recommend create a few things every single week. Even if you don't post them anywhere, just make something and save it so you can use in a portfolio one day. And for those of you that are using apps to create your designs, keep doing it. App design is a great way of learning the basics of design and layouts and stuff, and then eventually dive into Photoshop. I definitely recommend doing that. For those of you running the sports team Instagrams, keep doing it. Seriously, it might feel like it doesn't lead anywhere, but you're going to get awesome experience doing that you won't get anywhere else. And so I highly recommend just keeping at it, guys. There is a path that you can follow that gets you to a sports design career. And now, especially with the way our world is going, there's so many different opportunities designing for social media teams like Bleacher Report or NFL or whatever that may be. There's so many opportunities working for teams individually. You can work for Alabama or LSU or Oregon. There's so many opportunities in just agencies. So I definitely recommend going full speed ahead into sports design if this is something you actually want to do. Now, I remember when I was looking at college and kind of walking through that process, I was like, man, I am really interested in doing something like this. But everyone kind of told me, well, graphic design, you can't really do anything with that. Or there's not a whole lot you can do with sports design, that doesn't exist. I wish someone would have said, no, this is completely possible. You can 100% do that. Because then that would have shaped some of the decisions I made. But I'm here to tell you guys the same thing, that pursuing graphic design, pursuing sports graphic design is possible. You don't have to go to graphic design school for it. As long as you have good YouTube videos and a dedication to learning more about sports design, it's 100% possible. So guys, if you have any questions about getting started in sports design or what a career in sports design looks like, I can share a little bit more about my experience with you guys one-on-one, but just send me a message on our Instagram, and I'd be happy to respond with any questions that you might have or help answer any thoughts that I just said the same exact thing twice. But if you've learned something new in this video, or you feel like you've gotten any value from this video whatsoever, make sure you give us a like so we can get this exact message to more people out there. We need more good sports designers in this world. And if you're not subscribed to our channel already, make sure you hit subscribe. Like I said, we're going to give away tons of free content for you guys because we want to make you better sports designers. But that's it from us today, guys. I hope you have a great one.